Good morning, Frank. The firing of Fed Governor Lisa Cook does open dramatic questions or create dramatic questions about the legality of the move, the independence of the Fed, and, of course, the outlook for monetary policy. The president cited his authority under the Constitution and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 in stating he had the power to remove Cook for what the president said was, quote, allegedly making false statements on one or more mortgage agreements. The president said in the letter to Cook, the American people must be able to have full confidence in the honesty of the members entrusted with setting policy and overseeing the Federal Reserve in light of your deceitful and potentially criminal conduct in a financial matter. They cannot, and I do not have such confidence in your integrity. Cook, in a statement last night, responded, quote, President Trump reported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law, and he has no authority to do so. I will not resign. I will continue to carry out my duties to help the American economy as I've been doing since 2022. Former Fed General Counsel Scott Alvarez telling me last night, it's not cause if someone made an allegation that's untrue. To be for cause, she has to have an opportunity to explain her side of the story. We don't know what she told the banks. And I would add, Governor Cook has not said. Many, both inside and outside the Fed, have viewed the attack on Cook as political, part of an effort to strong-arm the Fed into lowering rates. If the president's removal stands for the September Fed meeting, the Board of Governors would have only 5 of its regular 7 members, Chair Jay Powell, Vice Chair Jefferson, and Governor Michael Barr, those who were appointed by President Biden, and then Vice Chair for Supervision Michelle Bowman and Governor Chris Waller, appointed by Trump. The president has nominated CEA Chair Stephen Miran to a vacant spot, and replacing Cook would give Trump a majority on the board. Fed probabilities changed only slightly in the wake of the firing. September remained an 82% probability of a cut, but there was a slight increase from 42 to 34% earlier in the evening for a second cut in October. A Trump board majority would also open the possibility that the president could eliminate the 12 Federal Reserve District Bank presidents, 5 of whom have voted any one time, effectively giving the president full control of monetary policy. Coming up for a bracing event, look under the hood. Hey, Frank?
All right, so, Steve, I know you've been up all night. I know you've been working the phone, so a couple questions for you, if you don't mind me throwing a few.
Is that so obvious, Frank?
I just know how diligent you are, Steve. A couple questions for you that I think investors in our audience really want to figure out. First off, the legality. You pretty much answered it, but is this legal for the president to fire a Fed governor, and has it ever happened before?
It has not happened before, and I'm in the middle of reading a whole bunch of stuff on this, Frank. Obviously, there's the Scott Alvarez viewpoint, Frank, which says there has been no process. Even when President Taft, I believe, was the first president to fire any officials under for cause, I believe on the last day of his presidency in 1912, it was a result of a commission that looked at these allegations. There has been no due process, so to speak, but whether due process is necessary here is unclear. The Supreme Court has allowed the president to fire officials at other agencies, not necessarily for cause, but actually in that same ruling singled out the Fed as being different. How it's different is unclear. So we have several questions, Frankie. You raised the right one. Has this ever happened before? No, not with the Federal Reserve. Is there even much precedent for cause dismissals? No, not really. And whether or not the president can say, you are gone for a reason, does he have to have due process here? All that is breaking new ground. And the question becomes, Frank, I think for investors is there going to be an independent authority setting monetary policy? And increasingly, I have to say, Frank, it looks like not.
Okay. The other question is, why aren't we seeing more of a reaction, at least from bond traders, on the likelihood of a cut? How should we interpret that? Is that bond traders saying they're not taking this that seriously, that the president can do this? Because we're not seeing a big reaction in the equity market either. How should we interpret this, that the odds of a cut coming up haven't just jumped up, or we haven't seen more dramatic impact on the bond market?
I think you interpret it a couple ways. In the first instance, it's worth pointing out that there's really only 2 potential breaks on the president's assertion of his authority. The first one is Congress, and it has chosen not really to be much of a break. And the second one is the market. And the market, in the instance, obviously, of the reciprocal tariffs back in April, did exercise some quote-unquote authority with the big sell-off that prompted the Fed to change course. The second answer I'd give you, Frank, is if you look at, and I'm going to do this now while we're talking because I looked at it late last night, where the market is priced, say, for example, the December Fed Fund futures, which I don't know if you can pull that up, but I have a quote here of actually it's below 3% now, which is to say the market is already fairly dovishly priced and to some extent does see a limitation, I think, on the extent to which even a fully Trump-appointed Federal Open Market Committee would actually lower rates in the face of A, the current level of inflation, and B, the level of growth that's out there. So it may be essentially that the market, at least on a short to medium term basis, does not see a kind of disastrous policy coming, even if the president gets to appoint all of the members of the Federal Reserve.
All right. I think the last question is about Fed independence. I'm sure you've been working on this. Our Jeff Cox from CNBC.com kind of put out some stuff that there's a path for the president to have a 4-3 majority on the Board of Governors if he's successful in removing Cook, if Stephen Miran is confirmed, and then also there's potential for him to get a fifth vote if Jay Powell voluntarily leaves his seat after he ends his term as chair. What could that potentially do to the sense of Fed independence, not only here in the U.S., but globally?
Right. So if you look at the screen we have up there, the little blue bars underneath are those appointed by Biden. The red bars, I guess, are Trump appointees, but you might say Powell is not necessarily expected to behave perhaps like a Trump appointee. So in any event, if Lisa Cook is gone, what you see there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members there would be Cook. Miran would come in as a fourth member, so that would be the 4-3. If Powell steps down, that would be the fifth. The important thing here, Frank, and this was discussed, I would say, in the hallways of Jackson Hole, is the Federal Reserve, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve actually ends up approving the sitting of the Federal Reserve Bank presidents. And come, I believe, March of next year, they could decide not to seat them and not to approve their presidency. And so the key here is that, let's say he has 4, and he will remove the 12 bank presidents, he could have a complete appointment of the entire Federal Open Market Committee and the voters at any one time. So that would be pretty dramatic. Whether the president would take that step, I can't say, but clearly he has not been hindered by the idea that of going past or creating new precedents and things other presidents have not done. I think the clear thing here, Frank, is that whether or not this was done by Lisa Cook in terms of the mortgages, most people I've talked to see this as a political play for control of the Federal Reserve. The president has said he wants rates 300 basis points lower from where they are now, a 1% Fed funds rate, and that's where the president seems to be orienting himself.